Hi, everybody, and welcome to this installment of the Foundation for Free Enterprise Education Speaker Series. Today, we're very excited to have with us Andy deGruchy. Andy is the owner of Limeworks US, the nation's leading manufacturer and distributor of green, historic preservation and sustainable building mortars, plasters, and paints based on lime and not Portland cement. We're going to get into that. In 1979, Andy received a full scholarship for a 3-year program to study and practice masonry from the nation's oldest private post-secondary free trade school, then named the Williamson Free School of Mechanical Trades, which is now called Williamson College of the Trades in Media, Pennsylvania. He is the proud recipient of their Key Award for the advancement of its founding ideals. He maintains a few specialty crews which have operated through the past 38 years as deGruchy Masonry Restoration. Andy has restored hundreds of historical buildings in the Delaware and Lehigh valleys of Pennsylvania, and he holds lectures and training workshops on historic masonry restoration and sustainable building. He is proud to call this his life's work, and we're excited to have him here today. Andy, welcome. This is going to be a fantastic conversation.
I hope so. Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, let's dive right in. So let's get into your history a little bit. You received a full scholarship to attend Williamson. Now, there's a lot of talk nowadays about the skyrocketing cost of a traditional 4-year education, college debt, whether a 4-year degree is worth it, et cetera. Can you walk our listeners through your own journey and, like, how did you know you wanted to get into masonry, and how did you know how to search out Williamson and find that scholarship? Give a little background on that.
Yeah, sure. So the background is that I did not know what I wanted to major in college when I was in high school, and I didn't have any money. So I thought to myself, all right, put that aside. If money didn't matter, you had all the money in the world, what would you just plain want to wake up doing one day? What do you wish you could just be? And it happened that I played the guitar. And Dan Fogelberg, which I'm dating myself, but he's a guitarist from the 70s, sang a song, Leader of the Band, and that his father was a cabinet maker's son. And there's probably a little romantic side to me, and I thought, ooh, that sounds like a cabinet maker's son. What's that? I had no trade experience prior to going to Williamson. So I happened to see at North Penn High School, where I went to high school, on the bulletin board, the career bulletin board had a note for a free trade education at Williamson Trade School. So the Williamson Trade School is an anomaly all on its own. In 1888, when it was founded, in that heyday, there was about 150 trade schools in Pennsylvania, except for like maybe Stevens Trade School in Lancaster. They've all gone out of business. And interestingly, the Quaker that Williamson was, and the philanthropist that Isaiah Van Sant Williamson was, caused him, with what is the equivalent of $500 million today, to decide that he really liked what Stephen Girard did at the Girard School in Philadelphia, and he made an opportunity for academics in college for orphans. So he said, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hire the best architect in Philadelphia, Frank Furness, which our campus at Williamson is like, it's like an Ivy League school hidden on 200 acres in Media, Pennsylvania, built with incredible architecture. Even though he was a very frugal Quaker, he decided to pull out all stops and build this beautiful campus. And he decided to teach kids a trade rather than academics, teach them a trade. So there are some criteria of which you need to meet to be able to be accepted to Williamson. They get about 600-700 applicants a year. They only pick about 90 kids to come. And then they will probably on average only graduate 60 of those 90, because it's run like a military academy, in a sense that you have to wear a suit and tie every meal. You have to wear it to the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, line up in the morning, where old English terms like a prefect would come along and check that you were shaven, and then check that your shoes were shined, check that your tie was straight. If not, you're chopping wood on Saturday. And when kids say, I'm not chopping wood on Saturday, they say, well, thanks for coming, see you later. So this was run like a military academy, and they had the grips on you because it was a free school. You get all your room, your board, your schooling for 3 years. for free, and that fit my my need. So interestingly, you have to attend a chapel service every morning, a 20-minute chapel service. You have to wear your suit and tie to all your meals, all your classes, 9.5 school-hour day, and we had to wear white uniforms to lay bricks. It was just like a throwback to the 1800s. It was very unusual. However, I wanted to really become something and straighten up my act. So I felt that, you know what, I like all this regiment. I'm gonna eat it up but how I got accepted was that you do need to have a financial need, which we had. You do need to have very good references, which I was able to obtain, and you need to have good grades in school. Then they'll pick 600 out of 600, they'll pick 90, and I was fortunate to get in. But interestingly, the cabinet maker's son, the carpenter, the class was full. They said, we'll give you your second choice. And on the form, I checked off masonry, and I didn't even know what it was. Now, today, everyone's like, oh my gosh, in my region where I live, people think of us as really excellent stonemasons and restoring buildings, but I didn't even know what masonry was. So I wasn't going to go, and the guidance counselor at the high school said, look, this is a free education. You can always quit if you don't like it. Do a book report on masonry and see what you think. So when I did that and I saw, building fireplaces and setting, mosaics of tiles, I started seeing the artsy art in it. And I thought, I guess I maybe could like this. So I decided to give it a try. And as you mentioned, when I graduated, they gave me what's the key to the school, which would be, an award they only give out if there's a consensus among faculty that there's somebody who met the ideals of what the founding father, Isaiah Williamson, was intending to produce from the school. And the reason I think I won it is that, I got my name's deGruchy, it's a French name, but I have a little Italian in me. And I think something with masonry and Italian or something hit a nerve, and I loved it. And I really excelled in doing that kind of work. So in the end, I met what they wanted, and I was able to find that I had a trade skill. But I will interject, I know I've been talking a lot here, but I will say that, of the students, my classmates, no one probably would ever have guessed that I would actually have gone into contracting and been a contractor for 38 years. I didn't have that personality, that I still don't think I am cut out to be a contractor, but I've been a contractor all these years. And it's just because it's a volatile and rough way of doing business that, especially in masonry, it's a tough on your body, it's tough on the equipment, it's just tough, And I don't know, I guess I had that toughness, but I didn't think it back then, and I don't think any of my classmates would ever have guessed it either.
That's fantastic. Wow. I mean, that was a fascinating description of Williams. So let's talk a little bit about masonry itself. And let's say, you kind of fell into it, right? Because it was kind of your fallback choice or whatever. But let's say somebody's interested in masonry or in any of the trades, other than going to a place like Williamson. How would you suggest they start? How do they explore it? How do they get into those kinds of careers, especially right out of high school?
Right out of high school. Okay. Well, the issue about the trades altogether, and the reason I have a business, is that I began to work for contractors. And because I had no trade experience, I also did not realize what a volatile and thankless job it is to labor and work with your hands. There was not benefits. This is a private sector, there wasn't benefits, it was volatile, And that's when I said, you know what? I went to trade school for 3 years to learn this illustrious trade. And it's all about hurrying up and getting things done in a hurry and making money, and at the expense of maybe your health or whatever, no health insurance and things like that. I thought, you know what? I didn't go to school to get abused like this. So I thought, I think I can start my own business. I think I will attempt it. And I often tell people when I tell this story, I say, I got to remind you, I didn't go to Wharton Business School. I went to Williamson Trade School. At Williamson, they teach you how to lay a brick and what is mortar and a trowel and a string line and everything, but they don't teach you how much to charge to lay a brick. They don't teach you business. So my 38 years of running this business has been the school of hard knocks. It's finding out what worked, what didn't work. But from the very beginning, and really still to this day, there's one hallmark principle that I thought, how am I going to do this when I don't know anything about running a business? I thought, you know what? You've isolated that you don't like to be treated this way. So just do the old golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. So to this day, I'm very proud to say, because we're a small company, I have about 20, 22 people, but we have a 401k, we have health insurance, life insurance, paid sick days, holidays, vacation, dental, vision. We have so many wonderful benefits that over the years, people would say, you couldn't possibly afford that. You're too small of a company. And that got me steamed up. I thought, well, you watch me. And so I forced into position many of these benefits based on, you know what, Andy, if you want health insurance, they want health insurance. If you want dental insurance, they want dental insurance. And so just that principle of trying to treat others the way you want to be treated has proven successful for me to be able to run this business all these years.
That's great. Hey, by the way, Andy, do you know who does teach you how much to charge for laying a brick? Shameless plug alert, warning, Pennsylvania Free Enterprise Week.
Okay.
He will teach you how to charge for your product or service. So
great.
There you go. So let's talk a little bit about internships, apprenticeships, and all that kind of stuff, because that's a very common avenue to get into the trades. Who's offering these opportunities these days?
Yeah. So you asked the question, like, how would somebody out of high school get into this? And now you're suggesting about the apprenticeship. The truth is that you really can't really know the trade unless you spend years doing it. I happen to own Limeworks US, and there we have day classes at something we call Craftwork Training Center, and we'll teach 1, 2, and a 3-day boot camp to wet people's whistle on seeing if that trade is for them. And we have not only masonry, but wood, window, door, and shutter restoration, things like that. So people can come and get exposed to it and see if it's something they like to consider to pursue. But we know that you really are going to learn by having a mentor and working under someone as an apprentice, being their protege, hopefully. Really, you have to eat it up and want to learn. See, the difference between all the glorious cathedrals built around the world that are still standing is that, grandfather taught son, and some of these folks, they never moved out of their community. Some of these churches, they never saw a different job their entire life except that project, and they would eat dirt every day and like it because they had no other choices. So today we have so many opportunities, and I don't want to blame it on the everything, but the attention span to stay with something for a long haul is waning, and so you really need. I would say you to do the type of craft that we do, which anything to do with historic preservation, the conservation of those incredible things that were built, that have incredible deep detail, even in where you are. Oh my gosh, where you are, I'm thinking of Penn Tech there in Williamsport.
In Williamsport. Yeah. That's where PFEW is. Yeah.
Incredible historic structures there. And if you go in there and you see, beautiful pocket doors and the hardware, even the hardware, the hinge is like incredible piece of artwork. Well, when you go see that, you realize these weren't flunkies. That the stigma with trades has been for the last, say, snapshot of 30, 40 years is, hey, Johnny, you must be ADHD. You must have dyslexia. You know what? You're not doing good K through 12. Guess what? We send the flunkies over to the VOTEC. And that stigma has made young people say, I don't want to be considered a flunky. I don't want to go into that way. And so that's put a damper on it. And so, but the truth is, you really can be very intelligent and do very good high-end work if you have the ability to focus and concentrate. And then some of the answers I had given you when you suggested some questions, you can command whatever price you want. And then you have a brotherhood worldwide. You can talk to cabinet makers in Germany or masons. I have Mason friends that are working on, on Notre Dame, and how do we know each other? Through, the lime and the materials. But it opens up a bigger world. And I think that for anybody who wanted to get into this trade, if they said, look, this is nice, Andy, this great story you're telling, but I just want a job. I just want a job or career. I don't want to light the world on fire and be the next, Van Gogh or, some kind of great artist. I would say that that is very commendable, just to get a job and maintain a job, make a livable wage. To do that, you could get an apprentice, you could get an apprenticeship and go to the union. You could work up your way up through the union. I think that's a safe bet. But of all the small contracting companies that are family owned that don't all treat their employees terribly. I mean, it's not saying everybody does, but there's a lot that do. It's an unsophisticated business. If you get a truck and a trowel, or a truck and a brake and some tools to do carpentry, you can put a shingle out that says, I'm a carpentry company or a mason. You can't do that in Germany. You can't do that in Europe. You can't just go hanging stuff. You have to have an apprenticeship. I think that for someone to get into it, they need to begin to look and see what's available, and then decide even what kind of trade. They may not know. Do I want to be a glass worker? Do I want to be a carpenter? Do I want to be an electrician? That's where some of these day classes, or even a school that would just acclimate you to what the choices are, could be helpful. But then you'd have to, use your own sleuth ability to, sort of unearth and understand the position of each company and what potential for growth you have within the company and all that. So it's an uphill battle, but probably same is true even if you don't go in the trades and you go work for any other company.
Yeah, I think a great starting point for our viewers too, if you want to explore this kind of thing, go to your local chamber or manufacturers association or employers association and look at all their members and look at who's creating opportunity out there. Believe me, I think this is no different than anything else. I think a lot of people are crying for workers, like you said. And something, you don't know what you don't know. And you fell into this, but again, if you have a skill and a desire, you can always build your skills, but it's that raw desire, and it's that hope, of wanting to create something lasting or memorable or beautiful or whatever. I think that's a very powerful incentive these days. It gets you away from, and you hit the nail on the head. We are becoming an ADHD society where the next shiny object, we focus on that rather than focus on really developing ourselves into a true tradesman or craftsperson. It's, there's so much opportunity out here. So along that line, Andy, I mean, what education or basic skill set would you recommend someone have if they're considering pursuing a career in the trades?
What basic education?
In other words, what should they study or what should they kind of focus on? Is it mathematics? Is it geometry? Is it, business? What track would you recommend?
Well, the one thing that I think is interesting is that innately people they gravitate towards things they already are naturals at. So I think that a person who finds that they're fascinated with geometry and math, and then they'll find that, there's plenty of applications for that in the trades, but not everyone's a mathematician. We actually have at the Craftwork Training Center, we have a guy who's a timber framer, and we're going to be running a master class to build a conical roof over a wishing well. And there's a lot of expert master timber framers who still don't know how to lay out and do the maths that support how to build that conical roof. So we're trying to appeal to even high-end craftsmen to push up their game a little bit. So I would say that, I think the thing to do is to go in the direction of which you seem to have a attraction towards. So if someone finds that they like to build things, if they don't like to build things or solve problems, then this will get old quick. So if they, and that's why it's good to take day classes or get an apprenticeship or just get a job and see if you start to even like to do what you're doing. As far as the classes go, I would say they would present themselves as being necessary. Like, for instance, I was one of those kids in high school who said to the geometry teacher, when are we ever going to use this? I don't need it. Hey, guess what? I still got my high school notebooks. And guess what? I would go back to them to realize, Pythagorean theorem. Well, guess what? I think I could possibly use this at this juncture. And I would help to lay out buildings by, some of that old math. So you had exposure to it. I think you'll dust off and find out and then pursue. What I did was once I began my business in 1984, I was just have truck, have trowel, will travel. What do you want done? I can do any kind of masonry. But once I live in Bucks County, PA, and once I restored an old farmhouse in soon, like 6 months into business, I thought, you know what? I like this more careful work to do restoration. So I thought, let me pursue historic restoration. Then I began to take an intensive workshop in Williamsburg, Virginia, that had the professor from Columbia University teach the class. And that opened my eyes to material science, which brought in the Lime later on. But every time there'd be a symposium or a lecture, about historic masonry restoration, I would sign up and go to it. So what education you need, it's based on your drive and ambition. Once you realize, hey, guess what? I'm getting excited about what I'm doing. So I don't know if you put the cart before the horse to say, we got to take all these classes in math and all these kinds of things, and then one day you'll find out you love being a carpenter. I think you have to just find out what you love to do and then take the classes that are going to support that.
Yeah, precisely. That's the nugget. I mean, I think the takeout of that is always be looking to learn more, to do more, to improve, all that kind of stuff. There's opportunities out there, but you have to go out and seek them. That's excellent advice. So Andy, for our viewers who are considering this, trade versus four-year school, all that kind of stuff, what kind of money can you expect as like a starting worker in the trades and all that kind of stuff? And they may not be able to, just a generalization. What kind of money can they expect to be making in 3, 4, or 5 years?
Yeah. Well, as you know, you drive up and down the highway and you'll see Aldi or Amazon or somebody advertising starting at 21, 22, whatever. The trades has historically been something like, as a laborer, you might make $15 an hour, starting, but they have to change their tune there because otherwise people are going to go work for, Aldi or somewhere. So they, I would say that, but maybe like just starting, you might make $15, $18. And that's with a private company. That was a private company. Now, really how much you could make, and I did mention this in the questions that I had answered that previously, just to review things. The sky is the limit. There is no limit to what you can make because when, like for myself, we have a specialty, and there are things that we can do that I really do not know anyone else who can do the same exact thing we can do. Many times when we find that there are parts of the project that a lot of other masons can do, we will tell the owner, we are so busy, we prefer that you use this stonemason and that, and only call us in for that part because that's our forte. And when you know your forte, you can command whatever you want because it has to be done. And not to say you're gouging anybody, but you can command a premium. And my argument for doing that has always been you have to sell at what the market will bear, because you only have, in my trade, restoration, you only have 9 months to make hay while the sun shines, because we're a seasonal business. You can't do it all year round outside. You can't work in the dead of freezing cold winter, if we had such a thing as a dead of freezing cold winter, because right now it's 60 degrees outside in February.
This year's been nice.
but anyway, what I'm saying is you need to always make the most that you can for the period of while you have your health, when you have your health. Because if you don't sock away the money somehow with a 401k or other means, the day comes when you need it and there's going to be no one there to help you. So along the way, you have to always charge what the market would bear. And we say that if there's a depression and we get in war with Russia, and the market will only bear one loaf of bread to build that whole wall, we'll say, yeah, we'll do that whole wall for that one loaf of bread. The market will only bear that, and that's all we want is a loaf of bread. So interestingly, we've been able to command whatever we need to make everything run without a problem, because we have a specialty. And yet the nice thing with a trade is it sounds terrible to think, oh, well, now you're only going to work for a loaf of bread. But you know what? When you have a trade, you can fall back on that, and it always maintains. It's almost like the value of gold or silver or something. There's something in a trade that will always be with you that is saleable at whatever the market will bear at that time. So it's something to fall back on that's always reliable. That's a good reason to go in the trade.
Absolutely. Great advice. All right. Perfect way to end our segment, Andy. I really appreciate the conversation today. We covered a lot of ground in a very short amount of time, but ladies and gentlemen, if you want to reach out to Andy, his contact information will appear at the end of this video. You can do a deeper dive into the trade or into how you get started, anything like that. Andy, once again, thank you for a great conversation today. Really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.